Hello and welcome. I'm Sharon Spielman with Power in Motion, an Endeavor business media brand. The advent of Industry 4.0 has brought forth advancements and automation across industries, but we've yet to see its full adoption. Realizing the 4.0 vision requires significant digital transformation, beginning with the transformation of the underlying network infrastructure. Joining us today to talk about how 5G can help facilitate this integration and allow Industry 4.0 to be widely adopted is Michael Weller, Practice Lead for Manufacturing, Energy, and Utilities at Verizon Business. Thank you for joining us, Michael.
Hi, Sharon. Very glad to be here.
All right, so let's go ahead and get right started. My first question is, how do you foresee 5G facilitating the integration of advanced automation, robotics, and control systems, and what impact will this have on operational efficiency and reliability?
Great question. A lot of those areas of technology, advanced automation and control systems, robotics and such, they've traditionally been the domain of wired connections, almost exclusively for a variety of reasons. So while 5G won't necessarily completely solve for integrating all of those technologies, it's going to enable significant advances in a lot of the pillars of Industry 4.0: reliability, security, performance, agility, flexibility. It's going to have a lot to do with enabling those to happen, to make the next leap forward in productivity and efficiency with those technologies. One of the things that I think is overlooked in all of this is that when we look to the future with what 5G is going to be able to enable are things around visual technologies. So much of an industrial environment, the control systems, the instrumentation, the HMIs, SCADA systems and whatnot, very kind of legacy oriented. And when you think of how a shop floor operator interacts with the automation that they have on the floor, a lot of that information is still basic graphical user interfaces or even textual or narrative in nature. Even the digital signage that may be up isn't usually anything more than numerical counts of things. So I think when we look at that next generation of worker and that next generation of automation, that linking the worker with the technologies that are working with visual means is going to be really an essential part of this transition. When you think about how human beings learn, we learn much more readily through visual means than we do through textual means. So between computer vision and digital twins and video analytics and AR and VR and all of the different technologies that will be in the hands of people, whether it's scanners or smartphones or tablets, all these are going to have a visual nature. So we're going to be putting tremendous drains on the networks that support these environments because we're going to be pushing a lot of video content and still images up into the network, and we're going to be getting a lot of video content pushed down into the shop floor. And right now, the networks aren't designed to do that, and it's a beautiful set of use cases for 5G.
So what specific challenges or opportunities do you envision for industry as it embraces the 5G technology within the framework of Industry 4.0 for smart manufacturing?
I think one of the biggest challenges is going to be changing the approach to use cases and to processes and to all of the technology is probably a little bit farther ahead of where the people are with respect to skills and where the processes are with respect to what has to change to enable the technology to be truly leveraged. So when we think about previous changes in industrial revolutions, a lot of it was replacing somebody's physical skill, their arms and their legs, their ability to move something or to react to something or to grab something, whatever it happens to be. Where Industry 4.0 is really going to be more about how can we tap into people's intellectual skills, their creativity, their problem solving, their collaboration, all of this seasoning and know-how that they've acquired over their experience on the plant floor. How can that be brought to bear? So if I can tap into somebody's intellectual skills, not just their physical skills, it's going to have a massive impact on processes. So understanding that, yes, there's going to be some automation that replaces more physical skills, but so much of this is going to be about how do we tap into the brain power of all these people. So that's number one. Number two is another challenge that we see frequently is that the use cases are very often too narrowly defined, and they're too peripheral to core processes, so they don't drive enough business impact. So we see a lot of cases where an industrial customer kind of dip their toe in the proverbial water and try a science experiment. They'll try a proof of concept that's around a single use case. And they get to the use case at the end of the proof of concept, they realize, maybe that didn't deliver all the value we expected. And we really don't know how to scale it. So we're finding the customers that are a little farther ahead doing multiple use cases, that they're hedging their bets a bit. They're getting more accumulative business impact as a result of this, though, that's going to justify the infrastructure investments that are going to be necessary. Now, that's a double-edged sword, because if you're going to get more use cases, it means you're going to have to get more groups involved. And more groups involved introduce a possibility of more delay. However, the more groups that are involved, the more possibility you can have to socialize your initiatives more broadly. So the opportunity exists to get a lot of hearts and minds bought into the concept really early on during a proof of concept and pilot phase. And although it's going to be more herding cats, it's going to get a lot of the downstream obstacles out of the way. The third challenge that we're seeing is they get to the end of this business, use case and the pilot and all of that, and they're not quite sure what business case can be used to move it forward, because we're all on the frontier here. There isn't a template business case that can help organizations to go find the baseline metrics that they need to do a business case. We don't know in every case that computer vision is going to deliver X to Y% productivity increase. So because we don't have that generally available information, everybody has to kind of mine for it themselves and make some assumptions that don't necessarily have precedence or reinforcing evidence around it. So we're encouraging customers, you're likely to incur this challenge. Let's start understanding the business impact from the get-go, why we're doing the technical aspect, why we're doing the functional aspect, why we're doing the operational aspect of the project. So if we can start to expand the notion of we're not just looking to test reliability, availability, connectivity, things like that. If we can start to say, okay, we expect this type of business value to be generated, how can we measure it from the get-go? Or how can we start thinking about it in a way that we can accelerate that? Once we get to the end of the POC and everybody's anxious to convert, that business case can be a huge delaying factor and can serve to lose momentum as a result.
So it sounds like a lot for when you design for manufacturability. You know, you put everything up front, and then you don't have all those problems toward implementation in the end. So
exactly.
Yeah, that's great.